So when you're running a workplace, school, team, wherever you may be in life, it's inevitable where you got more than one or two people together, there's going to be conflict.
Yeah.
Now, part of our job as an employer would be to manage conflict resolution, not just with staff, but I guess sometimes client disputes. How is the skill set that you've got and you teach in terms of body language and profiling, how is that helpful to someone who's looking to deal with a conflict resolution situation?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things around conflict. First, about human behavior and navigating the nuances of some of these difficult conversations. The behavior element's a two-way lens. So what we pick up in others, but also how we communicate. And we sometimes make some mistakes with how we communicate. So the skills from a behavioural point of view are directly tied. And I know with one of your team, we were discussing about Chris Voss before. Some of Chris Voss's stuff is really relevant here. First, to some of the things I'd say, and to run through some of Chris Voss's stuff, there's probably two of his key elements that are really relevant here. We only have three of the types of conversations in our life. In the workplace, at home, there's only three types of conversations: practical, emotional, and social. Do they want to be helped, hugged, or heard?
Yep.
Problem is we don't take the time to identify what sort of conversation we're having. And if you're dealing with somebody that's having an emotional conversation, they are angry and upset. Doesn't matter how clever you are, doesn't matter how good your intent is, their prefrontal cortex is switched off. They're not going to take your advice. So we deal with people that may be frustrated, angry, or whatever. We may know our staff are really committed to working the problem, but we're sharing that advice. If they're in an emotional conversation and we're trying to be practical, doesn't align.
Yep.
So we need to first stop and close that gap. It seems like this is really important to you. I feel that there's a reason why you're feeling so strongly about this. So we need to acknowledge that part for then closing the gap. One of Chris's other stuff, that things that he mentions in conflict that I love and I use as part of my training and part of just is the difference between you're right and that's right. We go through and try and work through these things from a conflict point of view, and sometimes we have people that will get to a point and they say, oh, you're right. Okay, you're right.
Yes.
And we take that as we've won. Okay, conflict's over, we've run. No, you're right is just a short, polite version of I don't want to speak about this anymore, shut the hell up.
Yes.
So it's also difficult in conflict because some people get nervous.
Yes.
The outcome's important. The relationship is important. So setting easy pathway forward is a good way forward. Work out the type of conversation.
Yeah.
Get them to a conversational goal of that's right.
Yeah.
Now, that's right includes a breathe out and a shoulder drop. Oh, that's right. But to get to that's right, we've clarified, paraphrased, used elements of their own words and whatever.
Yes.
So if you identify the conversational type,
Yes.
and set a goal for that's right, the pathway we work through becomes much easier with conflict, and just accept it's part of everyday life.
I feel like when I get into arguments with anyone, more often than not, the underlying thesis of what we're arguing hasn't been well established, and there's a difference of opinion as to what we're arguing. And I feel like I get caught in the thinking, feeling thing where maybe the way I am, it's like I'm thinking of a practical, logical concept.
Yep.
And I might be arguing with someone who's feeling neglected, left out, abandoned, whatever the feeling is, right? Yep. So, I mean, how is it then? Like, how do you take that conversation like that? Do you are you someone who would just sit there and go, okay, I've identified that this person is in a feelings realm, and I'm trying to talk about a practical work situation.
Yep.
Do I try to bring them back onto course and say, okay, I understand you're feeling like that, but we have to deal with this issue? Or am I someone who's like now trying to accommodate their feelings and go, okay, let's put this issue aside. Why are you feeling like this? And am I their counsellor now?
Yeah, well, I suppose it's a bit of both. I mean, it's like the Forrest Gump line, both happening at the same time. But you said an important line earlier, probably more important than what you realised, defining the scope of the conflict. Because sometimes we're not comfortable with conflict, we don't do that. And so as part of defining that scope, so let's just say we've got two very different opinions here on the subject. Me saying to you, so just to confirm, this item and this part of that, we're both happy there. It's this item that we've got for us to work on together. Can we start there? Have I got that right? Yeah. Because sometimes the very first thing and initially the only thing that you may be able to agree on is the scope of conflict. So by doing that, and I literally do hand on heart for sincerity. So with these, it's this item that we've got to work through together. Can we start there? Like, am I right in saying that? That will be taken as we want to be on the same wavelength. This person's committed to that and clarifying. And so sometimes them going, yeah, that's it. It's just this item. I like you guys. I've been dealing with you for years. I trust you guys. But when it comes to this part, you're not hearing me. So doing that process, working out what sort of conversation they're having, closing the gap from some acknowledgement of that. And I know not compared to other training and frameworks where they say meet people where they are. That's crap. If somebody's angry and upset, I don't want you to be angry and upset. But you need to acknowledge that's how they're feeling and set that. We then work on the scope of the conflict and go for that conversational goal of that's right. That means that there's clarity and understanding. And sometimes there's going to be times that you can't help. You need to have that honesty and integrity to say, here's what I can do. I can't do that. I can understand why you feel that way. And I'm fully committed to working through this with you. This is the limit for what I can do, but I want to work through this with you to see how else we can make it best suitable. Yeah.
I feel like I find myself in a position often where I win the argument, therefore I lose the argument. And that is like, I think you basically identified in the beginning where you said there's three different, you said, was it facts, feelings and all?
So practical, emotional and social, help tug to herd.
Not understanding which category of conflict you're having is very detrimental to the outcome of the situation. So identifying that is obviously of paramount importance. Then you'd have the right discussion and hopefully a much better outcome.
But it's not just in the workplace. I mean, think outside here, because the thing is about identifying the conversation they're having. Let's do another example. Let's just say as part of this that your partner loves watching something on Foxtel, the house renovation shows. And during the conversation, like they say to you, next Thursday, the best show, or the 5 years after, where are they now, is on. I need to make sure I record it. Okay, well, I know how much you love those things, so that's great. It's now a week and a half later, and they forgot to hit record on Foxtel. So when you call and say, hey, how's your day? Their response is, I'm so angry, I'm so disappointed in myself.
Now I've got to stream it.
Foxtel's not working. So now what happens is, practical you would say, did you try to turn Foxtel off and back on? Now, what are you going to – I mean, I already saw you smiling. You know how that's going to go. Of course I fucking turn Foxtel off and back on. If we jump to trying to fix a problem, if they're having an emotional conversation and you're being practical, did you turn Foxtel, did you do these sort of things? We're not respecting their capabilities. We're not holding space for them, and we're not acknowledging how they're feeling. You're never going to resolve conflict. So saying, I know how much you were looking forward to that. That must be really frustrating for you. The same thing happened to me. I can share how I fixed it if you like. We're now getting permission for doing that, and then we ease that gap. That can be the difference with conflict.
Everything you've said to me today is driving towards making sure your strategic intent is preserved. And what I mean by that is like you're saying that like honesty, integrity, basically clear communication, both two ways, understanding what someone's putting out and what you're putting out. There's complete alignment there. Would you agree then that you should never use profiling skills or anything you've got in that sort of program to tactically do something that is maybe beneficial short term but doesn't align with your long term strategic goals?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is starting with the end in mind, with what we do for planning, for relationships, for service offerings, for all these sort of things. So you're definitely taking the time up front for planning that and then working towards that longer term goal, vision, strategy is important. And some of the things here with these behavioural elements, if used in the wrong hands, for sure, you can definitely influence people down different pathways. So that's why that whole authenticity and character needs to be correct with doing these things.
But nothing sticks long term if it's not really genuine, right? Like if it's not like let's say I'm recruiting or we're having a conflict with someone, right? Someone's unhappy in the workplace and there's a conflict about their role and they keep saying they're not happy with a particular element. I could shortcut like strategy or tactics to basically manage their emotions, win the argument, whatever. But if we don't fix the overall arching like misalignment, it's going to start again, right? So like is most of this, because this is what I find with personality stuff really, is most of this basically saving you time and money because you're learning or getting to the outcomes sooner than you otherwise would if you miss the signs?
Yeah, I think because of it's like an additional magnifying glass or the lens. And that's why a lot of my training programs are called the lens. It saves wasted time. It saves times on trying to work out, glean this information, process with that gap analysis. Will this still fit for our organization?
Yeah.
If you get these things right, like initially, and there's that transparency, we want a good fit. We want a good, positive, self-regulating culture. Here's how we do that up front for doing these sort of things. 100%. It's going to save time, effort, and money.
You generally get the same outcomes, whether you have the knowledge or not, but not on the same time horizon, which would therefore mean it's not the same outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. So it gives you that clarity. It supercharges your ability for doing these things. And so once you have that, all right, but it's not just you got the recruitment, it's then how do we lead our people?
Yeah.
Same thing. The more aware you are of those dynamics, you know how to better influence and lead your people. You'd have a bunch of people here that will have different motivators for who they are. They would deal with conflict elements differently. They would manage change differently.
Yes.
Modern leaders today need to have that, that clarity on those elements so they can get the most effective, the best results sustainably from their people and have those people wanting to work for them. And that looks differently for everybody in the room.
What would you say then, if two people sitting down to do conflict resolution, what are the most important things you're looking for to determine whether or not you can have resolution?
First one would be respect of each other's voice, going into that understanding that have a healthy attitude to conflict. Conflict is part of everyday life. It's just two people with a different opinion. So we both want to take leave at the same time. I think we should price a client this way or this way. I want Italian for dinner, I want Chinese. Yep. It's all just different opinion. And so what happens is if it's untreated and unworked through, then it goes through that increasing stages. The number one thing for conflict would be that respect about the fact that there's going to be different positions and opinions and we need to be open-minded.
Yes.
The second one is respect about, when we say go open-minded, go into knowing that you haven't got all the answers. If you're going in there, not just waiting for a chance to speak, not to listen, don't even go into the conversation. Yeah. You're not going to progress and resolve it.
Yes.
Those are probably the two other things.
You got to be willing to change your position.
Yeah, and at least understand like others. So in other words, know that if they're different, give them the chance to explain and understand why, because it may be in the thinking process, you may have vastly different outcomes, but the thinking process along the line, 80% of you may be exactly the same, but we don't take the time to do that. The other thing when it comes to conflict, the other key thing is I statements. When we get into conflict and disagreement, it's you don't seem to be listening to me. You are not listening to my points about this. You're not aligned with the vision we have moving forward, and it's you. We need to start making I statements. I'm happy to listen to those points. I'm open-minded about that. We do you things because we don't want to talk about ourselves and control and change. So focus on I statements is a big part for what you do. And then tying it to the other part, that quantification of conflict, get that scope right, those other items, that's the best path forward.